Hello.
Hello, Idom. How are you?
I'm good. At,
Good.
at, uh,
Yeah.
wow.
Where are you now in the world?
I'm back in Nicaragua, the place where I've been last summer. Yeah, last summertime. You are in?
Nice. Colombia. Yeah, I'm in
That's so,
Medellin, and after I'll make my way to Brazil.
that's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I thought maybe also going back to Peru at some point. But yeah, let's
Hmm.
see what will happen.
If you're saying if I go back to Peru or if you go back?
No, I think I'll go back, but I'm not sure.
Okay. That would be nice.
Oh, yeah. Today, our topic. I think we want to start with childhood, with yeah, just like speaking a little bit about our childhood and maybe what we got taught in our childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting spending with you these weeks in the States. We were talking, or I think I was talking a lot about my childhood because it was a strong mirror, or like I experienced in many ways the opposite in your family. But I think it's still so interesting because I think on the surface level, we try to, oh, it's easy for us to see what we want to see.
Mm,
And I think in each family, it's like, it's a complex.
for
It's a
sure.
big complex.
There's so many layers, and you only see one little piece of it. And it's funny because actually I remember when we first met, one of the first questions I asked you was, "How was your childhood? What was your childhood like?" Because for me, I feel like I understand someone so much better when I hear their childhood because our childhood really makes up so much of who we are. Well, it really it really impacts us in our adult life. And so I think that this is a great topic. Maybe you can share a little bit about how your childhood dynamic was and how it impacted you in your adult life, and then I can share mine also after.
Yeah, I grew up with six siblings, so we were this big family, and yeah, living in Berlin. After a while, we moved to another place
Hmm.
when I was 10, and there were so many things in our family dynamic. Like there was always so much. Like I felt a lot of stress between my parents. So basically, in each moment when my father was like with us, because oftentimes he was not staying in our house, he was working a lot in other places and everything. I felt this tension, like really big tension entering into this room, so much energy. And all of us, we were as kids, we were like, wow, fully on like this alert, like fully aware of something between my parents, or something maybe even from my father to us is like maybe on the way to come, to happen. So yeah, basically, I think it's a long story where it was a lot about um, trying to accumulate or trying to tune into a family system where I never felt aligned with
Mm,
because of the big religious background,
hmm.
a lot of immorality where I didn't feel called to live this dynamic.
Hmm.
So yeah, I never felt really aligned with this kind of lifestyle. But basically, it was for me so much. I found so much growth in seeing what I don't want to live in my future, what I don't want to have maybe in my family dynamics.
Hmm.
So yeah, there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of yeah, religious rules. So yeah, I moved when I was 15 years old. Wow, had no contact with my family for 7 years. And yeah, basically after ayahuasca, it started again. Like after my first ayahuasca journey, I felt a big release to being able to communicate again with my parents.
Hmm. Wow. And how was that again communicating with them after 7 years of no communication?
Yeah, wow. I feel like the first time when I met my mother, for example, I felt it was like feeling, it was a feeling of wow, so familiar, but in the same time still there were coming up these emotions of I actually don't feel safe with this other person, because only like because we were so close to each other, there is this high possibility to maybe feeling rejected, feeling hurt. So basically it was really hard to develop a kind of yeah, meeting each other on a level where we could communicate with each other. And I think it was possible, but also it took it was a big process. It was a long process to get closer again to each other.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing and like for your vulnerability. And now in your adult life, how do you see like those childhood dynamics showing up in your adult life and how it's affected you?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I feel like it affected a lot my relationships with women, but also a lot my relationships with men. And in many ways, I still feel there's this kind of, I wouldn't say anymore, maybe, wow, there's this big, big, big wound where I need to forgive. But sometimes, like, our parents are our best spiritual teachers, because if like there's this common phrase, if you think you're healed, just spend like this week with your family.
Yeah.
So, and I feel, for example, it was what was your question?
I was asking how your childhood has impacted your adult.
Yeah. Basically, we, for example, we had this big conversation, or this beautiful conversation 2 days ago, or yesterday, I'm not sure.
I think 2 days ago, yeah.
2 days ago, right? And I felt in our talk reflected to the time we spent together in Peru, how much my father is still present in the kind of, like, actually our father is responsible for giving us a path to go, or this feeling of full responsibility to take up for your life. And I felt, wow, when I'm still carrying any kind of, maybe we could call it the father wound, I'm not really able to create this kind of direction. And so it's not easy to create safety in my life, and people around me will feel it. They feel it, like, wow, he lost maybe his compass. Where is he going? So I think it's really new, but really valuable to see still there. It's this kind of effect, possible after so many years. So there are so many layers. How that's what you said in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so interesting to see like what you said, like our father wounds and our mother wounds. Basically, like if for anyone who's maybe never heard those terms before, but the way this parent was in your life, maybe they were emotionally unavailable, or maybe they were very aggressive, or maybe they weren't affectionate. All of these things, and the way they treated you will impact how you are in your adult life. And so if you have a father wound, like if you have a father who was very, let's say he had an addiction, and his behavior was very inconsistent, then the child could develop a very inconsistent behavior too, because that's what they modeled. That's what the father modeled. So that's just one example, but it goes. There's so many different layers to it. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. How was your childhood? Or how did you feel growing up in this family?
Yeah, for the most part, I feel really grateful because I feel like I had a very like loving, safe family environment for the most part. But it definitely wasn't perfect. We also had our challenges. But yeah, I would say that both of my parents were always like very supportive for me and my brother growing up. But like the example I gave earlier, my dad having an alcohol addiction and that affecting my parents' marriage. So just a little bit of like emotionally chaotic sometimes, and feeling that sometimes I'd play like the therapist role as a young child before I could even like emotionally develop myself. And so now, from that pattern, I developed this people-pleasing energy, because I felt like I needed to earn people's love through people-pleasing. So yeah, that's one way. And also not having strong boundaries, something I'm still working on today, actually, because my boundaries were violated at a young age. And now in my adult life, I have to learn how to create stronger boundaries with people and know, like, okay, where do I draw the line here? Um, so there's that. And what else? Hmm.
It's kind of interesting that in these dynamics where we feel as kid or as a child, like oftentimes responsible for our parents, that we feel like maybe guilty
Sure.
that they're in this kind of situation.
Yeah.
We, even as adults, this attitude that we want to fix maybe someone, that we want to help. But it's so interesting. Like I feel a lot of people who are in specific professions, like myself as physiotherapist, but a lot of psychologists or doctors or whatever, coming from a place where they are looking for love, where they're looking for affection,
Mm,
and looking actually for maybe healing themselves by helping others. But it's still this kind of, I need to fix something because actually I experienced so much chaos in my childhood. So still, like there's like your whole life, and for a lot of people in an unconscious way, and not in a bad way. Really like to say that our trauma is oftentimes a big gift, brings us to our purpose, or brings us to a lot of things where, which is like, what is still serving us.
yeah, for sure, definitely. And yeah, it's beautiful because like although we experience these challenges as children, sometimes we're not even aware of all the trauma that we go through as a child. Because in our world, we think trauma are the really big events, like it could be getting kidnapped or raped, something that's really intense. But there's very subtle things in our childhood that feel very traumatic for a child, and that leaves an impact on us. And I really feel that we choose. I really believe that before we're born, we choose the family that we're born into, to play out certain lessons and teachings for us to go through in this lifetime. So it's all a gift, and I think that while we're doing this healing work, inner child healing work, to not put the blame or play victim, and yeah, and give gratitude for our parents because everyone is doing the best they can in the state of consciousness they're in. I really believe that. So yeah, just having compassion and also self-compassion for yourself while you're on this healing journey too. And one other thing, oh yeah, one other thing, sorry, I wanted to share real quick, just going back to my childhood that I'm remembering now is not feeling like enough. I feel like that's a really core limiting belief that a lot of people develop as adults is that we don't feel enough or we don't feel good enough. And that 100% comes from our childhood. Um, like if we had an overly critical parent, we never felt like we were good enough to earn our parents' love. Or for me, for example, it was in soccer, never feeling like really having challenging soccer coaches who would always like yell at me, and it felt really traumatic. I didn't realize it though. I didn't realize how much of a sensitive person I am actually until I started my spiritual journey and I took off all these layers, and I realized how much these things have impacted me. And yeah, and also in our family dynamic was a lack of communication, not really saying like how you're feeling or being honest. It was a lot of just yeah, people pleasing energy among everyone and not really saying what upsets you or like speaking your truth. That really wasn't a big thing. So also using my voice and speaking my truth in my adult life is something that I'm still learning and growing into.
Mm.
Yeah.
There are these two quotes. Thank you, first of all, so much for your sharing.
Yeah.
There are these two quotes. For example, one is like, wounded people are like more able to hurt other people.
Yeah.
But maybe there, it's more true to say unhealed wounded people, because you can still carry a wound, but like taking out the medicine of the wound so that you're really aware of, actually, I know what it feels like, this kind of feeling, this wound. So it's absolutely not something I need to bring to another person. But oftentimes, like being in this unconscious, wow, I feel pain, and I don't know why I'm projecting that into my partner or my kids or whatever.
Yeah.
So I bring this to this other person, and like actually activating this circle of yeah, giving the pain to maybe the next one. And yeah, I feel like that's really interesting, because my other question was, and I like, it's so interesting because for some reason there is this thing of, we all maybe want to, no one wants to hurt someone, but I think maybe it's my crazy mind, but I told you this when we were together in the States,
Mhm.
where I asked you this question, like, okay, imagine we were full of light, we were completely healed, and we have children, and like trying to teach maybe the children in a way, like without without the necessity that they need to experience pain, for example, or something like that. But in my reality, like light and darkness, and for example, even challenging moments, or like even these painful situations of feeling this growth, this expansion, which is oftentimes which oftentimes includes pain. Um, how is it possible, or is it even sometimes necessary, or was it only necessary in the past, that we got hurt from our parents? Because like this other quote, at the second quote I was speaking about, is like, healing is, like the meaning of healing is experiencing the opposite. So basically, when we experience a specific behavior of our parents, for example, it's like my mom is behaving in this way, so that's absolutely not what I want to bring in this world. So I choose to take the other path. It's like the opposite, where I feel healed, where I feel like that's the better way. But like maybe the next generation, maybe my kid will again switch to the other, like attitude, and say like, no, maybe that's my way. So
Mm.
it's like this spiral of finding a balance, but to really be in a balance, where's healing happening, and where we need to create like these distortions to trying to find and to heal again. Because oftentimes we hurt someone, or we got hurt in the past, and actually that's the fuel for expanding, for growing. So
For sure.
basically, that's the big question: are we in this kind, sometimes not free to choose to hurt someone, or some, is it even necessary sometimes to hurt someone without like having the intention? But so many times it happens automatically, and sometimes it's like the biggest gift for a lot of dynamics and for a lot of individual people.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like it's impossible to go through this human life without hurting someone or and being hurt by someone else. It's like inevitable because we all have different wants and needs and different desires and things that we attach to, and then and other people are attached and desire different things, and because of that, like we're gonna hurt each other, and people will project, yeah, on hurt people will hurt people, you know. So it's inevitable that we hurt each other, but it's so beautiful because um like pain is an invitation for us to go deeper within ourselves, and it brings like, yeah, like what you said, so much growth comes out of pain. And pain is like one of the greatest motivators. Like if you feel a good amount of pain, you're like, okay, I need to make a change here. And that's actually something Tony Robbins says, is that people will decide to make the change in their life when they reach a pain threshold. Once they reach a pain threshold, then boom, a decision's made. They like can't tolerate it anymore. And so it's such a beautiful like catalyst to create the change you want in your life, and also like to go deeper within yourself and like discover more layers of yourself. And without that pain, we would never be able to do that. So I think that like in our world now, we should start switching how we view pain because we view it as a very unwanted experience and something that we resist so much, but it's such a beautiful experience at the same time. So, yeah, when it happens, like when we feel pain, just observing it and allowing it to be there. And I think it's yeah, just another one of the emotions that we have, um, and just to be the witness of it.
I would even not say like only to observe it sometimes is the best way, but for sure it's like the way to not being so much identified with the
Yeah,
pain, to alchemize the pain. I feel like that's so beautiful,
yeah,
because this can really open up into fields of finally letting go of maybe anger or grief or whatever, and to alchemize it in like in a beautiful way, which is creating so much creation in general.
hmm
And so yeah,
yeah,
I feel like there's this bullshit. It's not bullshit, but it's funny. It's also a quote where we really need to see it maybe in a way of where is our responsibility when we say only yourself can hurt your like
mm,
you can only get hurt by yourself
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
So
Like no one can make you feel anything. That's the
exactly,
yeah.
exactly, but basically in my reality we are one. So if I
Mm,
hurt you, I hurt myself in the end, because I
mm,
hurt the big body, like the big oneness actually.
um,
So and so I feel um taking responsibility is the only way. But on the other side, it's so like what exactly what you said. For example, even the Dalai Lama or Jesus, they never wanted to hurt someone, but sometimes even to laugh can people make uncomfortable and they
mm,
feel hurt. But like you can say, wow, man, I just laughed. That's a high frequency. But for something, for maybe like the pain body of another person, it really creates more suffering, which can be also seen as like an invitation to grow. But so basically, like there's not like this, what you said, like possibility really to step out of like feeling connected and feeling sometimes pain or this kind of oh shit, like what have I done? Was this created by me? Or like it's so interesting. I feel like there's really like many layers in which where we could see these
mhm.
topics.
Yeah, definitely. And if like I could tell somebody one thing on this journey of like healing and pain, all of this is raising your level of self-awareness. I feel like the more self-aware you are, the more you can really um, heal and grow into the highest version of yourself. Because if we're not self-aware of like our patterns, if we're not aware of maybe how we're projecting onto other people, or aware of, oh, where does this like, oh, I feel triggered. Where does this come from? Like, where in my childhood did this come from? And when we bring our awareness and we can shine a light on it, then that's when it loses its power over us. So it's just a matter of raising our self-awareness and shining a light on our shadow. Because as soon as we do that, then it's no longer a shadow. It's not in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, I feel healing always happens when we feel a kind of connection and wholeness. So that's basically the
Mm,
definition for healing.
yeah.
And be connected for sure. It's always like um, a really important thing to get into your own connection with yourself. But
Hmm.
on the other, like on another hand, I would definitely say sharing, for example, your experience by taking responsibility, but speaking your truth. Because
Mm,
I could say like, oh man, maybe we had this discussion and I felt really blamed by you, or I felt like so much pain. But now I'm sitting in my room and I need like, oh, I need to heal, but because like it hurts, but I take full responsibility for myself. But basically, if my truth in this moment is really like, oh man, I'm so angry because you were blaming me like in my reality for, I don't know, 20 minutes or something like that. It makes sometimes maybe more sense to just share your truth in a way where it's not like where it's not like bringing the circle where it's not where you should step out of the circle, but it's like being in this observative way. For example, okay, in my reality, I felt really blamed. You didn't blame me, maybe, but in my reality, I felt really blamed by you, and it's just like happening in my reality. I think the last times we were speaking a little bit about realities, and so we all live in our own worlds, and we have our projections or trauma. Is sometimes still like creating things around us where we feel maybe more triggered by.
Hmm.
But to step out of these suffering states, it's so helpful, or maybe it was so helpful. I know it was so helpful for me, just like to speak your truth and to really say like I take full responsibility for this kind of experience, but I would like to share what you were actually bringing me as the medicine of growing. So these old feelings got activated, and I know them maybe from my childhood or from another situation, but I would like to share because when we can reflect together in this kind of conscious
Conscious way. Yeah,
way, there is this possibility really to break the cycle.
for sure. Yeah. Just what you explained now, are you referring to the conversation we had a couple days ago, or were you giving just a random example?
We could say that, yeah. But there
Okay.
are many things I was thinking.
I wasn't sure if you were like telling me that or you were giving, yeah. Okay, well, yeah,
Yeah,
thank you for sharing. Yeah, um, I think this really goes actually into the topic of intimate communication that we wanted to talk about. Um, and basically, like intimate communication, from my understanding, is speaking your truth to somebody and being vulnerable and sharing things. And a lot of people want to bypass confrontation or speaking their truth to somebody because it feels very uncomfortable, and they don't want to risk possibly losing the love from that person. So like in our childhood, um, this can show up like our parents not communicating well to each other, or like parents not communicating to you, and now in our adult lives, it's really difficult for us. And but communication in any kind of relationship is so important. It's like the number one thing, in my opinion, to help for relationships to grow. Because if there's no communication, then a lot of problems could show up. So yeah, like a couple days ago, I feel like we had a very very like intimate communication, and there was a part of me that felt like a bit uncomfortable to like speak my truth fully, but I felt like I needed to. I felt like I had to express myself. And as part is like what I mentioned before is that I'm on my journey of expressing my truth, even if maybe someone who's receiving it doesn't like it. That it's important for me to share that, you know. And so yeah, what are you want to share on intimate communication?
never got tools to develop our communication skills.
Hmm.
So, and there are many possibilities to do that. And like, first of all, I think communication doesn't start with speaking. Like we are observing our body languages, and I think like even 70% is not what we speak, but we are translating the language maybe from this other person based on something where we, yeah, think that's maybe the message, but maybe it's absolutely not what the other person is trying to speak, trying to speak to us. So
Yeah.
I think that's really the key to see communication as a beautiful skill. Just to ask if this is right, what I'm observing, and for sure you could lie to me, but really trying to be open and to be vulnerable and to say like that's my fucking truth and I want to share that with you, because otherwise maybe I'm creating always these kind of stories and they don't want to suffer anymore, and they don't want to live in this unknown, or maybe in this wrong known. So just asking maybe, okay, that's what I experienced. What is your experience
For
in this
sure.
kind of like?
Yeah, it's so interesting because someone like we all have our own like past traumas, and we all what makes okay, so let me start here. all of us perceive and experience reality through a certain filter. It's not a physical filter, it's like a metaphor, but basically this filter is made up of our beliefs, our traumas, our values. All of this makes up how we see and experience reality. So if you're saying something to me, it's going through my filter and I'm going to receive it based on all of these things. And so I'm going to have my own perception of what you say or what you do. And it has nothing to do with you. It's my own stuff. So it's so interesting, you know, because you have you're having your model of the world, your experience of reality. Now I'm having mine. And when we try to meet and communicate, we're going through all these different filters. And so like coming on the same understanding and like expressing ourselves as clear as we can is it's an art really, and to be on a similar wavelength, because if someone is not like on a similar vibration to you, you could be saying something to them and they won't be able to receive it. Like they literally won't be able to hear you because they're not on a similar wavelength. This is my truth that I'm expressing right now. It's what I believe.
Yeah,
um yeah,
absolutely. I have exactly the same feeling.
for sure, yeah. So like I have my truth, you have your truth, and then there's the absolute truth that's like above us both. So it's interesting, you know, because one person's perception of an experience could be completely different from another person. So that's why intimate communication is so, so important. Even though it can feel scary at times, like the more you practice it, the easier it gets.
Yeah, and it's super interesting because I think even like the best speaker, when he gets into a state of maybe feeling uncomfortable in some kind of like interaction with someone, and he feels like maybe in an unconscious way, trauma response is coming up. So he feels maybe completely frozen or in a kind of I need to hide out of this situation. I feel fucking like lost here. It's super, super difficult. The more you are really meeting yourself, wanting to meet other people in this kind of depth, it gets really complicated in some ways because we all are individuals. And like you said, it's absolutely my truth. It's sometimes impossible to meet someone if he's not able or if you are not able. There's always two to meet each other on one frequency. So basically, that's, I feel like, sometimes even really painful to experience. Maybe after years of partnership, to finally have a conversation about something where you need to meet and it's not possible anymore. Realizing, wow, I don't know this person. Have I ever known him? So that's basically where it gets really, really interesting, because I experienced a lot of couples or a lot of friendships where I felt like, oh man, it's interesting. Like even after years of being together, they have no real meeting point, or not really able to understand each other and to feel each other in a way.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. And like, what would you say? So, some examples of how to start like intimate conversation with somebody, or having that deep discussion, maybe for someone who's never experienced this before. Um, yeah, what are some examples maybe that you could give?
I think the closer you are to one person, the more difficult, but also the more helpful or the more healing you can experience in this kind of dynamic. Because it's easy to like find a person on the street and just like, okay, I'm gonna share with you my whole life. You're not like, there is no danger in that. You don't feel threatened by him. It's really easy. I did this many times. It's super, super easy. And whatever he said, like the baddest words he could use, I give a like, that's nothing for me. So, but basically meeting someone where you feel like, wow, he's really close. So you feel kind of vulnerability and like being with him together and to share about something which is really important for you. It creates like a place where you need to feel safe. Otherwise, it's really like, wow, it can bring a lot of shit out, but it won't be helpful maybe for both of you. Because when I feel like, oh shit, like I don't feel safe, but almost like I'm exploding because since 1 week I have this feeling of, oh man, I need to tell you that, but then like it comes out in this way of we haven't spoken about how we could create a safe space for both of us. It's really difficult to hold space for yourself and for this other person. And so I feel it's something where we need to have a lot of compassion with ourselves and a lot of like compassion for growth, that we're not need to be perfect, and that we will do mistakes, or that we're gonna do like fail sometimes, but that's not bad. Like really coming from a place to say, how can we create safety for both of us? So are you even emotionally available to hold space in this moment?
For
Or
sure.
yeah, like really, I think we spoke about that like 2 days ago. Sometimes there are these people, like really conscious people, developed all these skills about, yeah, like how can I communicate in this way to relate to someone, and they went to a lot of workshops or read a lot of books and all these things, but maybe the other person is absolutely not on the same place, and like it happens so fast, and the other person is like, what's going on here? I feel like so much, like I feel overwhelmed, and it's not possible, but I'm not used to speak in this way, or I have no idea actually what's coming up in my body. So I think it's really like maybe some kind of mathematic we need to like a structure we need to build, because it's always like we could say like the masculine is creating sometimes the structure, and then the feminine is able to fill this container of yeah, like something is moving with emotions, but the masculine is creating this safe place.
Yeah.
And by masculine, I don't mean that the man always needs to hold space, and yeah, that only the women are allowed to express or something like that. But I feel like it's really like seeing the other one as part of yourself, and really like seeing that as a big initiation to growth. And it's super, it can be super hard, but I'm super grateful, because I think I have many experiences where it was, and I experienced like so much compassion that it can be really challenging. And yeah, like I think we had this conversation, and I felt, wow, it was possible for both of us to create safety in ourselves, with ourselves, and then really like feeling so safe in this space that we could experience this kind of, wow, it's absolutely not like true that we need to feel in this way, like feeling fearful of feeling rejected, or yeah, these kinds of fears we have maybe in these moments, and because they are pretty strong in many situations.
Yeah, it's really nice to like be with someone where you just respond and you don't react. I feel like when we had our conversation, we both just like, yeah, we just listened and we weren't like, well, and I feel like a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but people I've observed growing up, when someone says something to them, they'll just like, wow, react and like just blurt back because their inner child feels hurt and they project back onto it, and then the other person doesn't feel safe anymore to express their truth. And so there's so much beauty when two people can just have a conversation and respond rather than reacting, and yeah, holding a safe container for each other in that. So yeah, thank you for responding in the way you did.
I would like yeah, thank you. I would like to give an example, maybe by showing something between us in a way that we maybe not bringing too much from ourselves, but like showing maybe as an example, like in general. For example, I give you my parents, that there was a situation where it was not possible to speak about, for example, in a way where they could meet about sexuality, about yeah, maybe oh shit, I met another person and I really feel like he's really, really nice and I was attracted by him. So we are not a couple, but I would like to give like an example maybe.
Hmm.
Like only we play if we would be maybe a couple. So for example, maybe we can have this kind of like imagine there is a situation and you tell me, wow, I met this guy and I get super jealous and they say like, oh man, what's going on with you? And maybe I feel so much like anxiety, but I'm not able to communicate. And because I'm feeling so much fear of like, oh man, she's going to abandon me, she's going to leave me. I will blame you. I will like I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I will do, but I will react in a not conscious way. And even if I would say like, "Oh man, baby, I feel this fear," but yeah, it's not something where you can hold space. Then it's still not really coming to a place of meeting each other. So maybe just like coming to a point of maybe I can lead it, and yeah, just like you tell me something, I need to tell you something,
Hmm.
and maybe like going through a process where we can show what does it mean for me and for you, maybe to have this kind of conscious communication. Are
Yeah,
you
and
with me?
uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, I think I love that example, and I think that it's so so beautiful when like that example you gave where a guy could be vulnerable and say, "Hey, like telling your partner I feel jealous by this," you know, and being because for a lot of people that's very a vulnerable thing to say, but it's so beautiful because that's like you're sharing your truth with your partner, you know, and you guys can see how you can work through it and grow because yeah, and seeing like where the jealousy comes from, you know, and it really jealousy comes from a place of insecurity of like, oh, I'm not enough, and building like your own self-confidence, things like that. So like having that conversation with your partner and just being super honest and vulnerable with them, I think it's one of the most beautiful things we can do in partnership. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, for sure.
nice.
And actually, another thing, this goes into communication, which makes it a bit tricky also, is like the freeze trauma response. So there's trauma responses of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And we were both talking about how we both have the freeze trauma response. And in this trauma response, you your body literally shuts down and you can't even like it's really hard for you to express your truth. It's very difficult, and in these moments like communication can be really really difficult. And so like for anyone who finds himself in these moments of these trauma responses and feeling themselves completely shut down, it's difficult to communicate. Just having self-compassion for yourself where you're at, not pushing yourself so hard or being really judgmental on yourself, and just accepting that your ego is just trying to protect you in this moment because it makes you feel like it thinks that your life is in danger when you're in these trauma responses, and just accepting yourself for where you're at and knowing like, okay, when I come out of this trauma response, once I'm in a better place, then I can express my truth. So that's also another part of all this too.
Yeah, and for sure, at the end, we don't know nothing, but there's also a truth behind the opposite. Like knowing some, like knowing or knowledge is power, and just by knowing about your trauma response and making your partner maybe aware of trauma responses can create a lot of like safety. Just like saying, okay, that's my response, and like if you see me in this state, you know that I'm not able to communicate, or just like in
Yes,
this moment you need to say like, I'm not able to communicate right now, it's absolutely not possible. I need to have like a half an hour or some hours to get out of this trauma state, and after that we can sit down and we can talk about that.
for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so just like let's imagine, maybe I'm home, you come back maybe after a day, you come back in the evening, and yeah, you want to share this kind of like you met this guy and he was really, I don't know, like something where,
Charming or something.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, how would you start? And I will react like in a conscious way.
Yeah, totally. I met this guy at work today, and he's so cool. Like he just we had a really deep conversation about spirituality and I just feel like he's so wise and we're gonna meet for coffee later to talk more about spirituality.
Wow, baby, I love you. No? So basically, first of all, I would invite you. Okay, it sounds really like something where I feel something is coming up in my body. Can we sit down maybe for a moment and like breathe together? Because I feel like it's something really which is creating intensity into my body. So maybe we can tune in, breathe together because I feel like kind of activated in this moment. And I feel like there's this feeling of, I don't know, like a little bit of anger is coming up, a little bit of jealousy. So maybe really, maybe I love you. Can we just like sit down and breathe together? And okay, so we're gonna breathe together. And maybe I still feel these feelings, but so there's still this kind of curiosity because there's a lot of love for you and there's a lot of like self-compassion and love for me. So I just like share that, okay, it's not easy, but I'm not going to interrupt you. Can you please share how did you feel with them with him? And like, is there anything I need to know, or is there anything what you would like to share where you may be afraid of because you don't feel safe with me?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing and for expressing your truth in that way. Um, yeah, your question was how did I feel? I felt well first, yeah, I want you to know that I don't feel any like romantic feelings for him at all. I just feel that we had really great conversations, and in the moment, I just felt very like intellectually stimulated, I guess you could say. um, I didn't know what word to use. Um, but yeah, there's nothing that you need to worry about because I don't feel any like attraction towards him in that way at all. But he's someone that I enjoy talking to, definitely.
I just want to tell you that I want to believe you, but I feel like there's this trauma response coming up, and I feel like a lot of mistrust because I feel really fearful that you could leave me. So yeah, first of all, yeah, I really appreciate that you invited me to your day and to this experience.
Hmm.
And I think like I would like to speak about yeah, maybe what we could do. Like I would like to create more intimate with you, where yeah, I could share maybe a little bit more why I feel in this way, and yeah, just like to breathe with you, to connect with you. This would be really helpful, and yeah, something like in this way, I would invite, and then really like to open this space. I feel like that's always really important because you stepped really like in a normal way how we share, like, oh, I was just like buying some stuff, okay, I met this guy, so it was really like ooh. But I would try to, and that's maybe it was my part in this situation. Okay, there was not like an opening for this communication and maybe not like even an awareness for my trauma response, or for my anxiety, for my jealousy. So I needed to be really like in this courageous state of okay, let's pause, let's open the space for having this conversation. Let's share in this way that I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna be connected with my body, be like really truthful, and not like, okay, baby, it's fine, everything is good, and like going with these emotions into the next days, but really like, okay, thank you for speaking your truth. Thank you so much for your trust. And now I'm gonna speak my truth. And are we both able to hold space? Or maybe that's also like it's creating some kind of other stuff in you. So I think it's always nice, like really to have this structure of like having these kind of yeah possibilities to share in this safe place, and that like, where is there something else where we need to talk about, and then really close the container. And yeah, if it's not fine after that, like, okay, have another check in. So I feel like that would be my example of conscious
Mm, yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for like role playing that, and it felt really nice actually, because I've never been in a conscious relationship before, and so like even the role playing of how this situation would play out in a conscious relationship, I was just thinking in my mind like, wow, this is so beautiful to experience this, because I feel like so much of our worlds aren't having these conversations in like romantic relationships, and I see how powerful it is and how beautiful it deepens partnership. um so yeah, that's all I have to share about that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I feel like actually this desire of like, how could we bring this into this field of teaching children conscious,
Mm,
or yeah, conscious communication, because
mhm.
otherwise it's something where we need to grow so much through failures. I experienced most of my relationships in a way of like, it's not possible to meet you because I feel like I am right or you are wrong, or you think you're right and I'm wrong, and like I feel rejected by this way. So there always were these triggers of like both are in this state of we cannot meet each other. And so basically learning by all these or through all these failures is a big thing. But yeah, how could we bring these like even to children, that they're not gonna need to learn this always through try and error. So I think
For sure, yeah.
that's really really yeah, it's a big thing, because I think going through these times now, these big transformation times, it's so important to be connected and to build these kind of relationships who are really strong and powerful, and where we feel safe in these sometimes
Hmm.
unsafe times.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think like having alternative schools where kids go into school every day and they're learning like, okay, this is how you can learn conscious communication, or like this is how you can understand self-regulate your emotions and see how to express yourself, you know? Teaching kids this in school. And I think that there already are more like conscious schools starting to pop up in the world, which is super beautiful. But yeah, when we can start education at this young age, like wow, by the time they're adults, their yeah relationships will um, they'll be able to like manage them a lot better with the tools that they have and that what they've learned. Yeah.
Yeah, and really, I feel like I want to add something like each person is really different. For example, I had some conscious talks with people, and like speaking about, okay, now we need to create safety by like, yeah, bringing our nervous system down in a way that we feel safe. But really, it's not, there is not like this one way. Sometimes it's like really, okay, my truth is for the next 10 times, I just want to cry. I just want to like to express myself. And I'm gonna blame you because there is this need of, and but by inviting the other people, can you hold my expression of truth, because it's not against yourself, but it's sometimes it's something where I feel so much healing finally, because I feel so triggered, and now like something like that. So yeah, so I
Mhm.
use maybe this kind of safety for really like bringing something out. So that's not like this one way. Okay, I'm gonna breathe now. Okay, I can feel it. Okay, blah blah blah. For some people, it's more about like specific tools, and for a lot of people, it's like really learning so much about what helps you, what is helping you. So I feel like there's also so much like this invitation to learn about yourself, what is really helping your and use, and like in creating your own space of safety. And yeah, how could you express your truth? How could you express your truth? Okay,
Mhm.
my iPad is almost dying.
Yeah, we can wrap up this session. But wait, did you ask me a question, or was that a metaphorical question?
I would love to have an answer on your thoughts about that team.
About what?
Think about that topic. What you think about that?
About intimate communication? Or
About like, do you think there are like, for, or maybe just regarding to my things, what I said, what I
Mhm.
shared, like these, there are so many tools, but sometimes it's like regulating your nervous system. It's like there are books written about that, but I don't think there are like there's not one way, but it's
Yeah,
super helpful just to educate people and inviting them to go sometimes into these challenging moments and yeah, to experience yourself in a new way where you can grow and where you find you maybe even find more about yourself.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely believe that there's no one right way that works for everyone because we all have our own archetypes and how we express ourselves, how we respond. Someone maybe just wants to let out their anger and like really fully embody like the emotion that they're feeling rather than like bypassing it. If that's their expression, then that's how they do it. So yeah, it's really just dependent on the person and what way works best for them, I
Yeah,
feel.
and just yeah, exactly. And just by giving another example, I had one relationship, and always like this big topic of anger came up in her, and I was not like I was in this mode of I need to hold space, I need to hold space. Okay, I need to hold space. But man, I was so many times on this state actually where my truth was like, fuck you, I cannot hold space. I cannot hold
Mm,
space. So I tried always like in this people pleaser state actually to hold space, but it was creating actually more unsafety inside myself because I was
mm.
acting against my truth all the time.
Wow, that is such a beautiful example. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like yeah, it's so important to connect to what your truth is and place that boundary. When you say, "Wow, I feel like I'm not in a place right now where I can hold space and like I need to express this truth to her." And yeah, that's a beautiful example. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Such an interesting topic, and there's so much that goes into it. Is there anything else you want to express or share before we wrap up?
Maybe we can give another example because that's also really nice just for ourselves to get in contact. Because many times, like what you shared, is like we are maybe feeling more like numbness, or maybe if we get triggered, we feel like, okay, we're not able really to tune in because we are already in a high alert state. But I think cultivating that is really like to do a check-in with ourselves or with another person. So maybe at the end we could do something like that where we just bring our awareness to our body.
Yeah.
And it's really nice that just like to connect to your breathe and going through your body and just feeling. So there is not like I feel like my father is, that's the past. So only what do you feel as sensations, feelings, or something which is really present, like maybe a taste, a smell, something where you really come into the present moment. Maybe we can end this call with that because I feel like that's really a practice for yeah, for presence, for
Sure.
coming into the present.
Yeah, yeah. I think like powerful tools like somatic experiencing, I've been experimenting with lately, and I found that to be really powerful. Also meditation. Um, but yeah, these tools that bring you back to your senses and to the present because already know this about me, but um, I grew up diagnosed with ADHD. I don't really like labeling things, but being taken away from the present. And you can't have intimate conversations or make someone feel safe if you're not even feeling safe in your own body because you're mentally checked out. So yeah, I think that's a really important piece to all of this.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
and s- sorry, speaking from your heart rather than speaking from your mind too. When we're not present in our body, like we can't speak from our heart. So that's a really important thing.
Absolutely. So maybe at the end, I can just ask you, maybe you can give an example, and then after this, we can end this call. But I would like really to know, yeah, what's going on right now in your body, or yeah, what do you
Mm.
feel in this moment?
In this moment, what's going on in my body? Hmm. I feel really good in my body right now. I feel like there's a lot going up here. I'm processing a lot of information, but overall, I feel really safe and I feel connected and I feel grounded at the same time. So yeah, thank you for asking. Um, yeah, I feel good. How are you feeling in your body right now?
I feel really grounded. Mm, I feel a little bit sweaty in my hands, on my fingers exactly, but I think it's not based on feeling super excited. It's just like because the weather is super warm. I feel like there is a little bit of back pain, but it's because I was bringing so much stuff from town here. And I feel the wind coming from the window to my body, which is super nice. And I feel like it makes me really happy being able to smile. And yeah, I feel really present just going through my body. So thank you for this question. And for me, I just want to add it was really beautiful to just witness you and your presence.
Mm, thank you. Yeah, it is really beautiful to witness someone in their presence, because they're bringing their whole self to you, you know? Um, so yeah, thank you.
Wow.
I feel grounded, way more grounded now just from that
It's,
exercise.
yeah.
Yeah. I think the key is checking in with ourselves throughout the day, you know? How do I feel my body in this moment?
Mm,
Such a powerful practice.
yeah. Wow. Thank you for this amazing talk. It was
Yeah,
really, really
thank you. It was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do another one when we feel called in the future.
exactly, exactly.
All right.
Aho, have a beautiful, beautiful evening. I'm super grateful to have these conversations with you.
Yeah,
And
me
yeah,
too.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Speak soon.
Mm, speak soon. Have a good one.